I'm Brian Markwalter. I'm with the Consumer Technology Association. We're one of the groups that's a founding member of ATSC and very committed to broadcast television. And of course, for our members who we'll meet in just a moment, who build and bring TVs to consumers and are here at the show. I'll just kind of do a super brief introduction, but we want to jump in now and explain what NEXTGEN TV is, what's happening in the U.S. this year, and what you can see on the show floor. So this is Madeleine Noland. To my right, she's president of ATSC, and she will give you a little background on ATSC. So the extent of the presentation is going to be Madeleine, and then we ask our TV manufacturers, we did not put them under the burden of presenting slides. Next over is John Taylor. He's with LG, and he runs all their industry affairs and is very active in CTA's video division and ATSC, among many, many other things. Next to John is Dan Schinasi with Samsung. Samsung also really active. Maybe we need Sony to sit between LG and Samsung. So Dan's with Samsung, and nice, friendly competitors from around the world. Dan does product marketing, I think is the best way to put it, also deeply involved in CTA's video division. Then finally, Luke Fay from Sony. And Luke is not only with a TV manufacturer and one who has one on the show floor he can talk about later, but also the chair of the primary standards group in ATSC. It's called TG3, but the one who is in charge of delivering the stack of standards documents that are the basis of ATSC 3 NEXTGEN TV. I do want to give a special thanks to our three TV manufacturers. This is a really busy week for them, so that they've run over here from the convention center. John in particular is deeply involved in their show presence and PR, and they had their press conference today. I think Samsung's is yet to come. I can't remember about Sony. Yes, so anyway, it's a busy press day for those companies. Well, so I don't think you'll be scooping yourselves if you talk about what you're doing with NEXTGEN TV at CES. Do you mind you guys just go down the line however you want to and talk about what you're showing here, what you're saying, what you see?
Basically, we're very excited to be a part of the NEXTGEN TV rollout here. You can see what Sony has to offer in the ATSC booth. The ATSC booth is in the Central Hall this year. It's booth 11329. Please have a look. Sony specifically is showing 4K HDR, so you can see exactly how that looks. And it's kind of one of those things where you look at the product and it sells itself. You just sit there and stays and glare at the TV and watch the pictures roll by. So it's really impressive. Also, we're there to basically promote the broadcasters and show cohesive action between both sides of the ecosystem, the transmit and receive. And so you can see a Pearl platform app running also in the ATSC booth on a Sony TV there. So I please encourage anyone there, anyone here to please have a look and go to that ATSC booth.
Explain what that platform app thing is.
Okay, so the question was, what is the platform app? And this is from Pearl. What it is the interactivity of a TV with a broadcaster. So as a broadcaster has their digital side of the business, which is a web browser and some features there, it's a way to have broadcasters have a common look and feel on a display device. So if you're a common look and feel would basically mean you have a station's logo in the top left-hand corner, and you can have a menu guide off of the left-hand side. And as you browse through, if it has items like weather, traffic, some small stories, in-depth investigation stories that are offered by a broadcaster, all those kind of things can be scrolled down in a menu item and then pulled off of interest for those who are interested to read more, or if they have a certain VOD, which is video on demand. If somebody wants to have a certain program in 4K versus 2K, different offerings of what a broadcaster can do. It's a common look and feel for all this menu items that broadcasters can have. So it's that platform that broadcasters can use to say everyone can get used to an ATSC 3 look and feel and have a common theme, a common feeling, go, okay, I understand how to navigate. And the easier it is for people to navigate through a menu system, the easier it is, and it doesn't mean it's not difficult to relearn how it works across different manufacturers. So that's hopefully a better explanation. Yep. Okay. I guess that's the two things that I would want to mention for Sony.
Okay. Jump in. So just yesterday we announced our support for NEXTGEN TV, and proud to say we're going to support NEXTGEN TV in our full line of 8K product. You'll see multiple models ranging in size from 55 up to 85 inch, so it's in medium to large screen. So we'll support that feature. I guess like our other colleagues, we're directing people to the ATSC booth to see the technology in action, and that's with our broadcast partners. One other element to mention, Madeleine gave a great presentation, but what's from the marketing side, what's a little bit unique here is we're marketing this. It's ATSC is the technical standard, but we're marketing this as NEXTGEN TV, and through the efforts of CTA, industry has gotten together, has a common name, a common logo, and that's across CE companies, broadcasters, et cetera. So NAB, the TV broadcast groups, everyone will be marketing that. So that's it's an important element to really help this get off the ground.
That was Samsung speaking. I'm not sure you introduced yourself. Okay. John Taylor with LG Electronics. This is not the first time we've actually, is that working? This isn't the first time we've demonstrated NEXTGEN TV. We just didn't call it that yet here at CES a number of years ago. Even before the ATSC 3.0 standard was finalized, we were doing early broadcast tests, and I was on the roof of the Las Vegas Convention Center trying to pull down the signal from Black Mountain. Those were heady days. But now it's real. And this is really the launch pad, CES 2020, with real products and real services coming on the air this year. So it's really exciting times, not unlike those early days of HD when we were getting what we now call ATSC 1.0 off the ground. For our part at LG, you can also find us in the ATSC booth working with our friends at Sinclair Broadcast Group with an LG OLED in the booth, displaying live over-the-air robust reception. But in our booth, you'll find, and that's booth 11,100 in Central Hall, the products we announced at our own press conference this morning, 6 models of OLED, LG OLED, 4K and 8K product, ranging from 55-inch, 65-inch, 77, and 88-inch, all with the capability to receive these incredible new services known as NEXTGEN.
All right, that's awesome. So I hope everybody, I think there's a code so you could register for CES. I hope everybody makes it over. That's the point of us doing ICCE in conjunction with CES, is give you an opportunity to go see what's going on. So everybody name dropped the ATSC booth. Madeleine, do you want to add anything else about what's going on at the booth? You probably should.
Of course. First of all, it's the first time ATSC has demonstrated or had an exhibit at CES, so I'm very proud of our members. I'm very proud of the people who've helped us put this booth together. And I was there this morning and watching the sausage get made, and it's coming together beautifully. The televisions look great, you guys, just stunning. And there is a drop off of Black Mountain again. I forget which channel it is, but Sinclair's on the air again this year, which is what's being displayed on the LG TV, and the Sony TV is amazing, and just the Samsung, everything looks fantastic. But as all 3 of them pointed out, they all have their own booths, and there's a lot going on at CES for NEXTGEN TV in addition to the ATSC booth. So if you can somehow find the LG booth, which is a mountain, at Central Hall Door 1, Sony is down the hall, and Samsung has a vast city further down. But the ATSC booth is next to the LG booth, so it's just kind of a landmark for you. We are giving away, and I brought some for you guys, this guide to NEXTGEN TV at the show. So you can find everything, whether it be in the convention center or at the Westgate or any place else in the center. You'll also see products and services that are coming out across the ecosystem and the rest of the guide. So we'll hand these out, and as Brian said, I do encourage everybody to jump over to the convention center and see what's going on. And while I'm on my giveaways, all of you who absolutely must have a new lapel pin, because I know you haven't got a box full of them yet, this is the NEXTGEN TV logo. And I'll leave it to Brian to describe how much effort and resource went into designing this logo and selecting the colors and what it looked like and how it would all work. Please, your lapel pins are here. And if we run out of lapel pins, then you're going to have to go to the convention center and go to the ATSC booth to get yours. Also, we'll have a session at 9 o'clock in the morning at the Venetian on ATSC 3.0. I think it's what NEXTGEN TV means for technology, if I have that right. Several of us here will be presenting at that one as well. But I think that the most fun it's going to be is at the main stage, just outside in the Central Hall lobby, Wednesday at 10 o'clock. I will have the humbling experience of standing on the stage with Senator Smith of the NAB and Gary Shapiro of the CTA, and we're going to have a sort of a woohoo moment. We're going to talk a little bit about how excited we are, and also about the collaboration that's taken place in order to make this happen, both for the logo itself as well as getting the standard out, as well as getting product on the market. I think you guys heard the big fun is 20 in 2020. 20 models being announced here at CES 2020, and I was on the phone this morning with a very prominent broadcaster who's all in with this stuff, and he says, oh my God, we have our work cut out for us. The TV guys have really done a great, and it's going to be up to us to make darn sure we execute on this plan, which I presented. So I think the broadcasters are very excited about this. They know there's going to be product on the market. They know it's going to be marketed to consumers, and there had better be something to watch. So we're very excited about all that. So please do come to the ATSC booth, come to the center stage, and toast with us, and come to the session on Thursday morning at the Venetian to learn all about ATSC 3.0 and NEXTGEN TV.
So let me jump in here and add a couple of comments on the logo, because it's not just a logo. There's the part that's behind it that matters, particularly if you build TVs. So the logo, what we had to do was figure out a way to convey this to consumers. With the DTV transition, what we now call DTV transition, well, there's a format change. We're going from analog to digital. We played around with logos. There was an HDTV logo, but pretty much everybody was cutting over to one system. It was ATSC 1.0. This go round, we needed to have a consumer-facing name and image so that the consumers would know what to go shop for. And, you know, there's a lot, products are complicated now, so you have to really simplify this down to one thing, and that's what the NEXTGEN TV logo is. Now, behind that is a test suite. So there is a certification program behind it. The logo is licensed to TV manufacturers. So if you're in the TV business, these three companies are pursuing that path. I'll let them speak to how far or whatever they are. But if they're announcing these products that suggest if they're putting the logo on them, they're doing it through the certification process. So speak to me, or Madeleine can get you to me. But we do have a certification program that backs that logo, so we're excited to do that. And broadcasters have agreed and are helping to promote that logo. And obviously they have the real ability to promote to consumers, so we're excited for that. Any other comments from you guys?
I know you're supposed to moderate, but I was going to ask you a question, and maybe Dan too, because he was instrumental as the chairman of the promotion group at the video division at the Consumer Technology Association. This was a really intensive process to first come up with the name, NEXTGEN TV. There were dozens and dozens of names that were looked at, and then a really thoughtful and detailed process to get to the logo in terms of the research.
Right. And we didn't do this just by ourselves, CTA being the Consumer Technology Association, but this was done in harmony with broadcasters and the NAB. So we took everyone's opinion, sometimes challenging at times, but we got there. So we have a common name and a common mark, so we're very happy to have that.
A lot of consumer research.
Yeah, and that's a good point John just made. Consumer research to back that, so which was pretty extensive. What features resonated with consumers, what they're looking at. Just a couple of topical things that, from the research. Consumers, the better audio and video, of course, I guess not a big surprise, but the interactivity, the addition to additional content, the access to additional content, those are things that really resonated. Also, importantly, consumers don't want to be left behind. And I know I can speak for myself. I hate to buy something and then something better comes out. So consumers do have the expectation that this thing that they're buying will evolve over time, and we've all designed that with that in mind. And there we are with the mark. And, if you have any further.
No, that's not.
All right, well, I'm coming to Luke next anyway. I didn't warn him about this question. This may lean a little technical. And we should talk, we will, before we end, we need to talk a little bit about evolution in that process and what ATSC 3.0 does right that maybe we didn't do so right before. Luke, I want to, if you could channel some of your TG3 technical expertise. ATSC 3 really took a concerted effort to make sure the service could work in many situations and could support broadcasters' need to do delivery to mobile devices and fixed. So we have a very, this is a very challenging engineering problem. You want to deliver beautiful, giant pictures to a home, to everybody, and get coverage over your whole coverage area, and you want to get pictures that hopefully use less bandwidth to small devices on the go. So what's in the roots of
Right. So basically, broadcasters got together in 2010, some 10 years ago now, and basically threw everything into the pot. They said, we want to have mobile, we want to have stationary, we want to have experimental, we want the ability to evolve over time, and why not the kitchen sink? So all this stuff was put in, and we brought out some key use cases and scenarios that we needed to support. And basically, a lot of it came down to how is this going to work in the real world? And the first step in getting anything like that out in real is the physical layer. So you mentioned about evolution and whatnot. One of the things that broadcasters really understood is that the one constant is change. Whatever you do, it's going to change. So let's start somewhere where we know how to look and know where to start to find out where is the next signal, how is it going to evolve, and basically we came up with what we call a bootstrap. This is the specification A321. It's been used in the FCC regulations now as a starting point, but basically it signals what is coming to you. So nothing is taken for granted. There's no a priori information. It's all signaled to you. So your bandwidth, your sampling frequency, all that kind of stuff is signaled now. And if you want to change it in the future, no problem. Just signal it differently. And those markets, those devices that come out in 10 years from now or 20, whatever it is, they will see the new signaling, but the ones that are left behind, basically the markets or the devices today, can see, okay, this signal, I understand the first part of it, and a few frames, I can understand, those are for me. For the new devices that come out, there can be extra signaling and say, okay, the extra frames that are coming in for the PHY, I can understand those as well, and then more services can be brought out that way. So there's an evolutionary roadmap, as you will, even for the physical layer. We're used to having web browsers and internet update, like you were saying, every 3 days or something from Netflix. Yeah, that's real. And so broadcasters need a way to have that pace and that speed of update. That's what their competition is, and this allows them, the NEXTGEN TV allows them to do that. So we have an IP backbone protocol, and the speed of internet change is basically allowed in NEXTGEN TV. So as broadcasters, get new and creative ideas of technology and whatnot, they can update their digital side of the business and simply port that over to the linear over-the-air service as well. So it's that ability to stay relevant and stay in tune with their customers is where NEXTGEN TV really has the power. It's very compelling to them to go for this. And so that's one of the things that I get asked is, this is not a voluntary standard. Nobody has to do it. What did I say? This is a voluntary standard. My apologies. Correct that. Just go back in the tape. It is voluntary. They don't have to do any of this. And so it's so compelling to these broadcasters to say, yeah, this is my future. I want to have this happen. And what we're seeing today and this year's is basically broadcasters are signing up saying, yeah, I'm going to put it on the air and I'm going to test it. And we're having manufacturers come in and say, yeah, I see that future and I'm going to support that. And this is what we're seeing today. So it's very compelling, even though it is voluntary. And that's really exciting to see. So all this work for the last 10 years, from 2010 up to now, writing standards and figuring out the best technology, how is it going to work and whatnot, is really coming to fruition. So I think it's really exciting to see this happen this year with the NEXTGEN TV.
So I want to follow up with one related question. Can broadcasters do both at once? Can you do both fixed and mobile at the same time? We have a spectrum. Things are a little bit different here in terms of the spectrum availability for this transition.
Right. So there's a couple of things. Number one, the physical layer has a thing called pipes, and that's a very universal word, but basically what it means is that you can have different quality of services be simultaneously streamed or simultaneously broadcast from a tower. So you can set up a quality of service to be very robust and dedicate that to your mobile services, your cars, your people walking in the city, whatever. Then you can actually have a stationary type service where the quality is high capacity, and you can target the TVs in homes or devices in homes that are not moving that much. And so you can have, for an example, 4K HDR video being dedicated to those devices, all within the same RF channel. And that's all done with pipes in the physical layer. It's a different modulation scheme, different FEC encoding schemes and code rates. A lot of different options can be chosen by broadcasters to say, I want to do stationary, mobile, and I want to do some experimental stuff on my own because I want to try some things out and see what happens. All of that can be done simultaneously. And that's an evolutionary roadmap of how things can evolve through time. So yes, it's all at the same time. A little bit of magic, but welcome to RF. It's all black magic at some point. And then I think the two things were mobile and stationary, but there was a third question you had?
No,
that was it?
That was it. I think I just wanted people to understand because there's not an additional channel that was allocated for the transition in the U.S. This go round. In fact, it is going away. There's been several auctions now of TV spectrum. So for those who were part of it in our transition from analog to digital HD TV, broadcasters had a second channel available to simulcast, so we could have a nice, long, slow, both signals available for a long period of time until the government, pinned down a shut-off date. So in this case, there's some fancy stuff going on where broadcasters have to channel share and jump on one stick and do some neat stuff. But the standard is part of how we can, in less spectrum, do more services for the consumers. I think that's very cool. John or Dan, any comments? I want to comment kind of on, I think we're at the launch. So this is the starting line, even though people have been working on this for 10 years. Where do you see services going? There's a lot yet to be done. If y'all want to comment on that, I know you can't commit beyond your.
Sure. Well, initial services, I think Madeleine touched on very well. It's simply put, better pictures, better sound, some light interactivity, enhanced program guides and the like. I think the HDR in 1080p looks amazing. All of our sets do amazing upscaling. So if there are some bandwidth limitations because of channel sharing, it doesn't mean that consumers aren't going to get an amazing experience with NEXTGEN TV and some of the other audio enhancements down the road. And in the not too distant future, we believe AWARN, the Advanced Warning and Response Network, which is the technology to deliver these rich multimedia alerting system, alerts and information for whether it's an Amber Alert or a man-made disaster or hurricane or what have you. This, we think, is going to be one of the killer apps that's going to drive more interest, particularly in mobile devices. So that's something that we as a company have been supporting, and we hats off to John Lawson and the AWARN Alliance to help drive that and to bring the ecosystem together, the broadcasters, the manufacturers, and most importantly, the public safety community. So that's one of the things we're excited about in the longer term.
Sure. I'll just piggyback on that. I think two things we're going to see develop. Certainly the receivers will have this capability, and I think broadcasters will light these up fairly quickly. And a rich program guide, something, if you have pay service, that's something you can enjoy today, but over the air, that's something new and exciting. So an advanced guide will be available, as well as access to secondary content. So, broadcasters have a lot of secondary content now, but you have to go to a mobile device or your computer to enjoy it, and this will be a seamless experience where you can just, Madeleine, you touched on this, I know you can jump back and forth and see that additional content. That could be many things. That could be a different camera angle. That could be another episode of a series that you're watching. So it's, the technology's there to enable all of these features, and I think we'll start seeing that roll out rather soon. That resonated quite well with consumers in testing.
Another quick thing. You reminded me about audio services. We talked about the clear voice and things like that, but the capabilities are in the standard, and we know that some broadcasters are looking at providing enhanced audio services. So if you're watching a baseball game, you can choose if you want to have the home announcers or the away announcers. So really, really a lot of fun and compelling features.
So we'll do, Luke, did you want to add anything?
Nope.
Okay. We're going to take audience questions in just a minute, so if you have some, get them ready. I wanted to give Madeleine a chance to say, because I didn't want to leave you with a feeling like, all right, standard's done, so Madeleine is kicked back in her office drinking coffee. Yeah, nor Luke. So what's next for you guys in the ATSC realm?
Yeah, thanks. So this couldn't be a more exciting time to be in ATSC. I don't know if everybody recognizes, here we are, we go to NAB, we come to CTA, we are part of the IEEE BTS usually, you've got something going on there. ATSC's membership really spans the ecosystem. It's a unique grouping of companies which include our friends in the CE industry, it includes our friend in the broadcast local stations as well as at the network level. It includes technology providers like Dolby and Technicolor, Fraunhofer, and it includes the equipment vendors such as Harmonic and the encoder manufacturers. The list goes on and on. My friend over here from a startup, Bonnie Beeman, who's working very hard on mobile. In fact, I think, Bonnie, some of your items might be in the ATSC booth in one of the demonstrations. So a really great cross-section of players in the industry who have a stake in what's happening in broadcast. So as we all know, these things are not standing still. We have a bunch of stuff to do. One is, hey, this deployment is happening, and as people unwrap the onion and start deploying and start plugging things in, they might say, oh, you know what? He interpreted this a little different than he did, and so we need to adjust the standard. So Luke has been dealing with a fair number of amendments and things that are coming along to add clarification. So there's that kind of honing and polishing that's taking place on the standard as it exists today. We also have a bunch of planning teams working together to work on the future. And those planning teams are studying a number of things. One is general future technologies. And that was the planning team that has been studying 8K, might be studying 5G. The group is sort of getting going as they think about what the future technologies are going to be. That's sort of the advance guard. And then we also have a planning team on automotive applications. So there's a lot of talk about, hey, ATSC 3.0, what a fabulous big pipe that you can send all kinds of data to unlimited devices. How about cars? And so a lot of people are very interested in that. Planning Team 5 is working on the automotive side and how to develop that vertical. We also have Planning Team 6, which is thinking about the global recognition of ATSC 3.0, making sure that other countries understand what it is and can kick the tires for themselves and decide what they think. Just recently, the ATSC 3.0 standard was accepted by the International Telecommunications Union, ITU. We're very excited about that, alongside with DVB-T2 as two of the next-gen TV standards that are available in the world today. And we know that there are others that are being contemplated. So that's very exciting. And then we have Planning Team 7, which is busy working on the roadmap for ATSC 3.0. When are we going to roll out what? So you saw my slide with Maddie's guesses. Well, my predecessor, Mark Richer, once told me, he said, you know what, Madeleine, the president doesn't make any decisions. The membership makes the decisions. So you give the membership the forum to figure it out. And so that's what Planning Team 7 is for. And we're also thinking about how we're going to approach 5G, how are we going to approach this data casting thing, and we're working on probably forming some new teams in the near future to really dive into those questions. So we're pretty excited, as well as, we're sort of in this parallel universe here. On the one hand, supporting the 2020 and 2021 rollout in the US, absolutely all resources on deck. And at the same time, looking to the future to say, okay, what are we going to do soon? What are we going to do later? And how's it all going to come together? And I can't thank the membership enough, because they're the experts that figure out what's going to work in the marketplace, what's going to technically work. And all ATSC does is we kind of make the fora for them to have those discussions. So all of those that are members, hats off, truly. And by the way, I'm looking for hometown announcers on all my sports. Boston people get a little bit uptight about these things, but now we're out of the NFL running for the year. But anyway, that's all right. Thank God.
Yeah. I'll add to that. Basically, education is also a big part of ATSC. So there's always something happening, and I think a lot of our members in ATSC are very keen to get the word out, very willing to talk to anybody. So if you see me or any one of us around, have no fear. We're friendly. We can tell you what ATSC 3 is all about and how it can apply to you if you have specific questions. So education for me is a big part of it. And then just exactly what you're seeing on the show today, you see the implementations. So like you said, Madeleine, as we plug things in and kick the tires, we're fine-tuning standards, but that doesn't mean we're closed off to something new. Basically, the common theme here is that change is the one constant, and as the new ideas come into play, then we incorporate those and try to move forward and see how things can work seamlessly. So there's nothing ever done.
And by the way, Luke is a great teacher. Anybody who can explain OFDM to me in 5 minutes, pretty good.
Anything to add? So I want to see if we have any audience questions.
I think this is working. Oh, good. Okay. So, audience mic here. Before we get questions, I just want to really thank Brian and the rest of the group for pulling all these people away from the gravitational pull of CES. It was really quite amazing. And
probably a better choice. Brian mentioned the attending CES. The little handout you got has got a priority code on it. So IEEE 20 will get you a badge to CES without having to pay. So do we have questions? Okay, here we go. Let's start here.
Okay, two questions. One sort of leading on to what Luke said about education. We've got the name, we've got the trademark. What are we going to be doing to educate the consumer that the service is available, they need to go out and buy the sets, they need to check this out. And tagged onto that, when are we going to start seeing these sets in the stores?
Buy him a moment, but that question was directed down there.
Yeah, just one quick thing. I just wanted to sort of add on to what Luke said about education. ATSC is entirely focused on educating the industry, B2B type education. And, you know, it's funny, I worked for a small startup who was doing interactivity back when, anyways, QCAT days and all that other stuff. And we got someone who was asking us from, they were a broadcast station who we were going to work with, and they said, how are you guys going to promote this? We said, you guys are a broadcast station. You know how to promote stuff. That's what you do. So thinking about from ATSC's point of view, we are very much focused on educating the industry, and we look to our experts in the CE and the broadcast industry for getting the word out to the consumer. So with that, I'll stop and send it back on that other end of the podium where it was directed in the first place.
Well, to be honest, it is going to be kind of a challenge here at the outset to help consumers really understand what this is all about. We, as manufacturers, can't do it alone. President Noland alluded to it. The broadcasters are committed. It's one of the reasons that we wanted to have this common logo and consensus around what we're going to call this, so they can use their airwaves to promote their new services, to drive interest in consumers to go to the stores. And the missing link here, and one of the great benefits of CES, is the huge attendance of the retail community. And we have countless meetings among our companies with all of our retail partners to map out the plans for bringing products to market in 2020, not just NEXTGEN TV, but all of our product lines, but a big focus on that as well. And answer your question, I don't have a specific, we didn't announce specific availability and pricing here at the show, but I'm expecting some of these models in the mid-year time frame from us.
Okay. I'll piggyback on that. So the first part of the question, when will these models be available? And I can speak from my own company, spring. So it's really pretty not far off. And about education, that's a very good point. So ATSC has educational efforts as well, as does CTA. CTA obviously has a kickoff event. They're sponsoring a panel session, the kickoff event on Wednesday, really to kickstart this. But this is common messaging. I think we should be all pretty proud of ourselves that NEXTGEN TV has pretty prominent messaging with 8K, with 5G. I mean, you know, the fact that, you know, this is being messaged alongside with some pretty incredible technologies, I think speaks for itself. So I think everyone can be proud of themselves that we're in that A-list, if you will. CTA also has, you know, quite extensive ability to do consumer outreach. In the past, they've had WebExes. It's not so much B2C, but it's also sort of B2B, but it's for the retail sales professional. They do events, the folks that do social work, and of course the broadcasters. I can't speak for them, but they've committed, as John said, to promoting this feature as well. So expect to see broadcasters promoting this on their airwaves. I think I covered it. Yeah.
Luke, go ahead. Then
And for us, I've been censored. We have a press conference today at 6. Please see the Sony booth in the Central Hall for more specific information. Basically, I can say that we're very excited about NEXTGEN TV and the user experiences that it delivers. It's very exciting for us, and we look forward to providing those user experiences to our consumers this year.
Yeah, let me put one more wrapper on it. So, you know, in the TV world, we have broadcasters on one side and TV makers on the other side. So there's no like single point of marketing for this. So I just want to clarify the logo. CTA created that in conjunction with broadcasters and through the consumer research we talked about. So we license it to manufacturers for use on logos that are on products, that are compliant. So you have to meet this test, pass this test suite. Broadcasters have also, we also are allowing partners to license the logo for promotion of the ecosystem. So I do expect, and we know they're already doing that in trade show venues, and none of us are really able to speak directly for broadcasters here, but I think the sessions later this week, you'll be able to hear directly from broadcasters what their plans are with respect to promotion.
Also, Pearl and Sinclair are both demonstrating in the ATSC booth. Their demonstrations are staffed wire to wire, so please stop by and feel free to ask them that question, because I think that's a question that's first in mind for them as well. So yeah, can get straight from the broadcaster's mouth at the ATSC booth.
Hi, thanks for this great panel. So I was really enlightened to listen about ATS 3.0 coming from Europe, and we are using DVB-T to DVB standards over there. I'm also coming from a company that's putting DTV stacks into consumer devices. So we are fueling a lot of telecom operators, creating set-top box stacks, integrating with operating systems, Android, etc., hybrid boxes, and also cars. Terrestrial TV into cars, etc. So for me, it's very interesting to witness that we actually have a decline in the number of devices that we are required to put broadcast tags in. And I'm kind of hoping not to see too much of a competition between the broadcast and broadband, as I kind of feel that, again, in ATSC 3.0, and this is not a critic, this is just maybe a brainstorming kind of discussion, that we are seeing that the broadcast is primer and the OTT is still OTT, over the top. So it is a great way to extend the broadcast with OTT. But what about vice versa? What if we have a consumer today, like myself, that is primarily IP-driven? So let's say we are watching Netflix, watching whatever else. And operators have the problem when there's a peak in watching. Of course, they want to offload. So they would love to use broadcast, and not using IP at that broadband at that very moment. If we have technologically resolved all the challenges regarding mobile reception, regarding all these things in ATSC 3.0, can we fall back to broadcast when we are in problem, but in standard IP apps, and not vice versa? So not enabling broadcast apps to broadcast solutions to go OTT, but vice versa. So enabling the IP world to fall back to broadcast. What is the technological challenge there, and can ATSC be used in that way?
Before you guys answer that, I'd like to just add on to it, because I think it's going to be part of the question. One of the comments I often get from people is, why should I worry about this? Because the broadcast standard and everybody's cutting the cord. And so my which is, I think, part of your point. My answer to them typically is, look what happened in the cable and satellite world when ATSC and digital TV came in place. And basically, every layer above the physical layer, except maybe PSIP and a few other things, basically influenced everything else that was doing broadcast television. And so maybe just to add to your comment, to what extent are some of the over-the-top providers and cable and satellite guys involved, or you taking account? I think that's your question of the issue here.
Okay, I'll start off basically at the top. We do have a standard. The number is A344. Basically, it has a list of all the APIs, application program interfaces. It is meant to enhance the IP backbone that we already have in ATSC 3. So while we can say a broadcaster can provide over-the-top service with these APIs, there's no reason it can't switch the other way. They can have an app that monitors, is there trouble on the over-the-top network? And if there is there space available in the over-the-air broadcast? Is there enough capacity to offload some content and still deliver it to the masses? That is entirely possible. The technology is there. It's possible to do that. It is a use case that some broadcasters are well aware of. And in fact, if they're looking at their markets, a lot of young people today don't buy TVs. They're watching TV on the cell phone. So why not enhance that and you leverage that ability to say, I can get my program content when I'm stuck in an airport or wherever on the phone, and if that airport is congested, which is more than likely the case, why not switch over to the ATSC 3 or NEXTGEN TV to bring in that multicast traffic into the high populated areas and, like you say, network, alleviate the congestion there. So there's no reason why it can't be done, and I think it's a use case that some broadcasters are very used to. And I think one of them, if you go to the ATC booth, might have more information for you on that one.
Yeah, I just want to talk for a moment about your question about cable. And it's a little bit different from your question with respect to broadcast offload. I think that, as Luke pointed out, broadcasters are thinking about that, and this is true whether you're on DVB-T2 or on ATSC 3.0. If you've got a data casting capability, you're in good shape. But in addition to this concept of broadcast offload or using the broadcast as a big pipe to do pre-positioning of the most popular content or something like that, you also mentioned the cable companies. I just want to talk about that for a minute. So this rollout right here that we're talking about is we're talking about over the air, but as you know, in the U.S. and many other countries, the partnerships between broadcasters and cable operators are extremely important. The number of viewers that are watching on cable, satellite, et cetera, is high, and of course it's extremely important. So the question might be, what are the cable operators doing, and are all these awesome features going to be available on cable, and when? Those kinds of questions, and that might have been buried in your question. So a couple of quick things about that. I had the pleasure of talking to the Society of Cable Television Engineers, SCTE, in October of 2018 with some colleagues from the cable side of things. And we did a great presentation, and honestly, it was a little bit of a wake-up call. I think the cable operators, aren't yet ready to do 3.0. They have a large footprint. They have a lot of network, and they're thinking about 4K in general, whether it come from broadcast or any place else. But I think at the end of the day, the cable operators know that if the consumers like the content and they like what they're seeing, then the cable operators can and will do it, and they feel as though they're in an excellent position to do it. So there's a lot of conversations going on between cable and broadcast. From the point of view of ATSC, the most important thing for us was to make a great technical standard and then get out of the way. So there's nothing in the ATSC standard that would direct or somehow influence a business discussion between a broadcaster and a cable operator. There's nothing that sort of is forced through or any of that stuff. Anything, they can have their business discussions freely, and they are. And again, one of the broadcasters in the booth is Sinclair, and I think that they would have a lot to say about offload concepts. And another broadcaster in the booth is Pearl TV, and they're the ones that I know of personally that are having a lot of conversations with the cable operators, particularly in the context of the Phoenix Model Market Partnership. I believe that they see this coming potentially in 2021. I think the conversations are going really well, and everybody hopes and expects that the ATSC 3.0 features will be available to cable and satellite consumers in the near future.
And we'll get your question. I just want to share one other data point since CTA does research in the U.S. So by our measurements, antenna use in the U.S. has actually increased over the past few years. So I think what we're seeing is a very consumer-friendly environment where they can pick among traditional pay TV, over-the-top, and broadcast. And so I feel like NEXTGEN TV is kind of meeting them where they are going by being able to serve both broadcast and broadband. So I'm happy to talk data with you later if that helps. One more.
A real quick question and a comment. First, a comment for Luke. At least according to the CES app, just want to let you know, the Sony press conference is at 5 o'clock, not at 6 o'clock. So I just want to let you know that.
They changed it on me. Thank you.
Okay.
We'll walk over together.
And then a quick question, and I don't know if you guys do this, I don't think you do, but LG and Samsung both make mobile phones. Any thoughts about ATSC 3 receiver showing up in a mobile phone from either of your companies?
Actually, and I'm sorry, could I add to that too, because I know we want to wrap after this. So I think we've seen a bunch of stuff like ATSC, MH, and and media flow, and kind of didn't work. And the issue I think behind that was typically link budget, that you had to put a telescoping antenna on the thing to pick the stuff off. But I understand you guys have got simulcast synchronous standards that would allow perhaps dealing with that link budget issue. So I didn't mean to jump in on your question, but I think it's relevant to, to what extent are we going to see something that actually makes it practical to do it on the phone with kind of the same form factor and without, sticking an external antenna on it.
Yeah, I'll just jump in real quick. So the short answer is there's no immediate plans to launch this on phones. I know our mobile group has looked at this, and I think TV will lead, and TV will be we'll see what happens with TV. We're committed to it. Multiple models, various screen sizes, really coming out in the next few months. So mobile right now is, as you can imagine, is 5G, and 5G has the ability to deliver this. So it's this, don't think this is just locked to traditional over-the-air broadcast. This technology could be ported elsewhere.
Agree, at least from LG's standpoint in the United States, television is going to be the launch pad, if you will, but there is some movement already in South Korea. There's a mobile television system called TDMB that is rapidly being replaced by ATSC 3.0 in mobile devices in Korea. So that bodes well here. I mean, it's more complicated here, frankly, and you mentioned MH earlier, some of the challenges there. The wireless carriers have to be part of this process to make it successful.
Okay, so I think we're going to wrap and give you a little bit of time back before you guys resume. So join me in thanking our panelists for coming over here and sharing their thoughts and their plans on NextGen TV.